This is a video presentation of Chapter 6, Section 3 in the 7th grade textbook entitled Estimating with Percents. So we're talking about finding values of certain figures given their percentages. And what this section is really going to be about is doing that with estimating, whereas in the next section they're going to be searching for actual answers. Now this is actually a very serious real-life application of percentages. This is something you will end up doing many, many times in your life. Anytime you go to a restaurant and you're sitting there trying to figure out the tip, when they don't pre-print those tip options on the bill for you there, you're going to have to figure out what percent of a tip you need to give. Standard tip being somewhere between 15 and 20% usually in most cases. So in these questions here, all right, it's going to give you a good foundation for doing that. You can also use that concept then when we're figuring out discounts at stores. When I walk into Carson's and I have a 30% off coupon and the register rings up $12 afterwards, I want to make sure that my coupon got applied correctly. So I want to make sure that I really got 30% off, and I want to be able to figure that out in my head. I don't want to have to rely on the little screen on the computer to make sure that I got the right discount. Okay, so let's go ahead and start working on this here. Number 1 is asking me to use a fraction to estimate, keyword there, estimate, 27% of 63. So they're asking me to use a fraction here. So that's going to be related to the 27%. So what they're going to say here is that 27%, well, that's right about 25%. And 25%, that's equivalent to the fraction 1 over 4. Now, if you're having a hard time seeing that, remember that this rounding shouldn't be a big deal to you, but 25% would be 25 over 100. Remember, a fraction is just, or percent rather, is just a comparison to the number 100. So in this particular case, I'm going to take that percentage, 25, and compare it to 100, and then I reduced it. Well, when I chop out 25, I get all the way down to 1/4. And that's how I came up with that. So really what I'm finding here is a fourth of 63. Well, the word of, as you hopefully remember, implies multiplication. So it's really a fourth times 63. Now, the nice thing is here we're estimating, because working with 63 isn't really all that nice. Instead, what they did there is they changed 63 into 60, something very close. Since we're estimating, that's not really an issue here. So this is really a fourth of 60. Or in other words, divide 60 into 4 parts and see what the result is. Well, if I divide 60 into 4 parts, the result is 15. 15, 30, 45, 60. So a fourth of 60 being 15, they're going to estimate 27% of 63 to be about 15. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. Tara's Tees is offering 2 t-shirts for $16, while Good Tees is running their buy one for $9.99, get one for half price sale. Which store offers the better deal? So what we have to figure out here is what's the prices that we actually have going on here to be able to compare them. So at Good Tees, if we buy one shirt at $9.99, we get a second shirt for half price. So we need to figure out what that's going to be. And we're going to do that with estimating again. So 50% would be half price. So half price of the regular price, or half of $9.99. All right, 50% is the same as 1/2. And again, if you're having a hard time seeing that, remember a percentage is a comparison to 100. So 50% would be 50 over 100. Then what I do is reduce that by chopping out 50, and that's how I get to a half. Now half of $9.99 is not really that great, but $9.99 is really close to $10, and that would be really easy. So we're going to estimate this here at half of $10. Well, that's pretty easy. Half of $10 is $5. So that means the discount there is approximately $5. We would normally pay $10 for that second shirt. but because I'm getting that second shirt at half off, I'm only paying $5. Now, my total price then at Good Tees is going to be 10 plus 5. 10 plus 5 is going to be 15, so the cost of 2 t-shirts at Good Tees is going to be about $15. So I now know that at Tara's I'm going to get 2 shirts for 16, while at Good Tees I'm going to get 2 shirts for 15, so the t-shirts at Good Tees ends up being a better deal. All right, in number 3, they're asking me to use 1% or 10% to estimate the percent of each number. Now, using 10% and 1% can be very, very powerful. And 10% and 1% are really easy to find. You don't even need to use a calculator to do this. You can do this totally in your head. To find 10% of a number, all you have to do is take and move the decimal in one time on that number. So let's say the number was 72. And I said, find 10% of 72. Well, to find 10% of 72, I just take and move the decimal in one time from the right. So 10% of 72 would be 7.2. All right. Then the other thing they talk about here is finding 1%. Well, to find 1%, all you have to do is move the decimal in another time. So on 7.2, if I move the decimal in another time, now I'm going to end up with 0.72. And we can use those percentages now to pretty much find anything we would need to find here. For instance, if they're asking me to find 15%, well, that would be 10% and then 1% 5 times, because that would give me 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15%. And I could just sum. Notice what I did not do in that process is I'd never really touched a calculator. Now, there are a couple other percentages that might be useful to you. 50% is when you take and divide by 2. So 50% is going to take 72 and divide that in half. So 50% would, of course, just be 36. And the other thing that might be useful